I've called it a testosterone epidemic. I've called it a crisis as well. And to put this into context for the listeners, there have been three massive longitudinal studies that have all shown the same thing. There was a great study here in the US called the Mal Massachusetts Aging Study, and there was a longitudinal one in Sweden and Finland. Each of these three studies lasted over 20 years, between 20 and 30 years, and they followed men and they checked various lab values, including testosterone. And what they found was that free testosterone, which is the bioavailable active form of testosterone that we really care about, and we can talk about the difference between total and free for sure. Free testosterone is down anywhere from 35 to 45%, depending on that study. Now, that's an age-matched control group comparison. So what we mean by that is that means that a 50-year-old guy today has a free T that's almost half of a 50-year-old guy 20 years ago. Massive decline. We've also found in other studies that fertility has dropped almost identical 50% decline. It's scary that we're seeing this massive effect on our gonads, on our testicles, that's resulting in low testosterone and infertility.
I mean, you mentioned, the average 50-year-old here. This was something I wanted to really kind of get your thoughts around. How early is this beginning to impact men? Here's kind of something that I felt like I've just witnessed here recently. So, I'm into health and fitness. I love going to the gym. It's a part of my, everyday lifestyle. I train at a pretty big commercial gym. I'm 40 here today. I can remember being in high school and feeling like I was around grown men. Like when I stepped into high school as a ninth grader, like the seniors were men. I see what I believe are 22, 24-year-old young men today that look like they're 14 years old. What age is this crisis beginning to impact men?
Yeah, you're spot on. I'm seeing this in men in their 20s and 30s, guys coming off the street with issues like brain fog, mood issues, depression, low energy, poor focus. Later in the day, they got to take a nap, belly fat suddenly in their 20s and 30s, and they're working out in the gym but not seeing the results that they should be seeing. Recovery's taking longer. Some issues with libido, sexual performance, a lot of stuff in young dudes. And it's crazy to see this progression, and it's getting worse every year. And another scary, and I don't mean to be all doom and gloom here, but I think it's important that we honor what's happening. We now recognize that there is a transgenerational epigenetic effect. A lot of big words there. What does that mean? That means that we are seeing epigenetic changes in our marks on our DNA, which affects DNA transcription, ultimately, physiologic outcomes. That toxin exposure that our grandparents were exposed to cause marks on their DNA. That's actually been shown to get passed down to subsequent generations. So then your father has already, behind the eight ball, has some damage, some marks in his DNA. He has further toxin exposure in his lifestyle and his environment that then get passed on to you. And now you're experiencing toxins and epigenetic effect on your testosterone production and fertility, et cetera. And it's getting worse and worse as we go through subsequent generations. And it's scary.
No, definitely not only doom and gloom, but I think it's important to paint the real picture of what's happening here. You mentioned toxic exposure, maybe going back 3 generations. I don't think we need to go on a history exploration here about, where all this started. But what are some of the drivers of this, outside of the toxin? How much of it is in environmental? How much of it is lifestyle? And what are the other factors that are kind of contributing to this decrease in numbers that we see?
So we can look at things like our food. Our food supply is tainted with chemicals such as atrazine. Atrazine sprayed on our crops. Glyphosate is used. These are both herbicides that are used, on the crops to kill bugs. We could look at the plastics, so plastic food containers. We can look at plastic storage containers. We can look at things like K-cups. When you're brewing a coffee and you're using a K-cup, those are plastic, and you're heating it up, and now those chemicals, phthalates and BPA, bisphenol A, are used to make plastic. So bisphenol A is the main ingredient for plastic, and then phthalates is what makes plastic bendable, flexible. And so our drinking water, especially if you're drinking from plastic water bottles, if you're drinking plastic, things like Gatorade and stuff like that have all kinds of other chemicals as well. Things like K-cups, anything, if you're storing food or water in a plastic vessel or container, and especially if you're heating it up at all, that's where you're prone to having leaching of these chemicals. There's a study that just came out recently that supported this, where it showed, I think, 1,000 different plastic particles were found in water when you test it. And so you're ingesting these chemicals, you're ingesting these plastics, and studies have shown that these are clearly crushing testosterone. So it's in our food, it's in our drinking water. Even if you're getting water from the tap, Studies have shown that it's tainted with estradiol, synthetic estrogen. So women's birth control, they take synthetic birth control, it gets excreted in their urine into the water supply, and our treatment plants are not able to effectively filter that out. And so I like to, joke, I like to be a smartass that guys are on the pill because you're drinking massive levels of synthetic estrogen in your water if you're not filtering it. And so that's why you'll see me everywhere I go. I'm carrying around a stainless steel water bottle and I have filtered water. And so there you go. Topo Chico, there you go, glass bottle or filtered water from home. You can get a very inexpensive filter you can put on your counter. You can put a filter under your sink. We installed one in our whole house, so our water supply and our ice supply is clean and pure. These are seem like minor details, but these are big deal when you think about it adding up cumulatively every single day.
Well, yeah, I think that's a more important thing. I mean, everybody kind of goes to the extreme, right? It's like, what's the thing that's going to move the needle 0.5%? But water is something that we're consuming, both ingesting, and then you talked about having the filter that's running through your house. I know, like, I can remember back in 2013, like I started paying attention to parabens and lotions and trying to get organic free based shampoos and soaps and all natural stuff, organic. 3 products makes a soap product. Like I'll go sometimes days without putting deodorant on because I don't even want the stuff underneath my arms. Like, does our body absorb these things like through the shower, like when we're taking a bath?
When we talk about personal care products, the main key there is time or duration of which it's on your skin. And so I'm not too worried about whatever chemicals may be in your shower water because it's hitting you and is dripping off fairly quickly. There's not a lot of contact time. But you're absolutely right. When you look at chemicals like shampoos and soap and deodorant and sunscreen, chemicals that are on your skin for long periods of time, is lipophilic. And that means that it gets absorbed through fat, it gets absorbed through your skin, and it gets into your bloodstream, and then it gets stored in your fat. And so all of us have some element of subcutaneous and visceral fat, and that's where these toxins can get stored, and they can stay there for years. And what it does is it slowly crushes hormone production. It's been shown to cause autoimmune disease and infertility and cancers and all kinds of other health issues that we can avoid if we just pay attention. And so, pay attention to your laundry detergent, pay attention to any soaps, like you said, shampoos, deodorant. There are apps on your phone. So the Environmental Working Group makes a free app called Healthy Living. It's a little green app. And there's another one called Yucca, Y-U-K-A. I think that one's free as well. And when you go to the store, you can scan barcodes and it'll tell you all the nasty chemicals that are in those products. And you can really search for products that you know are clean. It's not hard. Just take some intention.
Takes a little bit of time and a little bit of intentionality. We had I have a great friend that's started a men's healthcare line. He started first base was toothpaste. First product was toothpaste. They got soaps. They just released shave butter now as well. Guys, check out Legendary Men's Care. We had Joe on the podcast. He sponsored us a couple times, but we're talking about some of the toxins here. How much of these declining numbers is lifestyle based? I think we obviously have a generation, maybe we're second generation now that's probably living the most sedentary lifestyle the world is set up. We sit behind screens all day long. We walk less than we move less than we've ever done before. How much of this decline is lifestyle based?
Yeah, I would say most of it is lifestyle. And I think toxins is certainly up there that we've just talked through. Certainly poor sleep. And so in general, we're sleeping less than we ever have in the past. And when you look at sleep, what it's really, when you have not enough quality sleep, it's raising cortisol, stress hormone. That ties into stress. And I would say that in general, we are more stressed than we've ever been as well, where we're losing that work-life balance that used to be very clear cut. Now there's sometimes a very indistinguishable line between the two. And there's this chronic stress that people are dealing with. And what that does, poor sleep, high stress, it raises your stress hormone called cortisol. And cortisol tells your brain to turn off production of other hormones, especially testosterone, DHEA, thyroid, growth hormone, et cetera. And so, yes, lifestyle has a big factor here. Sedentary lifestyle, we know one of the great ways of boosting testosterone is heavy resistance training. And so as we become more and more sedentary, that's perpetuating that. That's perpetuating storage of more visceral fat as we're less metabolically active. And when we have a declining VO2 max or declining fitness levels, we're storing fat, and that fat converts any testosterone you may be producing, which is already diminished, into estradiol, your natural estrogen. That's going to prevent more production of testosterone. It has a cyclical downstream effect. And so It's all these pieces put together, Frank. Yeah, it's not necessarily any one piece. It's all of it that's coming together as a confluence to really crush our hormones.